Hi, this is Reverend Leo Woodbury with Woodbury and Associates, and we're welcoming you to our show, Environomics. Today, we have a very, very good, very knowledgeable guest, and his name is Hamilton Davis. He's with the South Carolina Coastal Conservation League. How are you doing, Hamilton?
I'm good, Reverend. It's nice to be on the show.
Good, good. We're glad to have you in light of all the very important things that are going on nationally and globally now in terms of the environment, in terms of environmental justice, conservation, climate change, renewables, energy efficiency, just so many things happening on so many different fronts. Why don't you start off by talking about your organization, telling us a little about yourself, Hamilton?
Yeah, absolutely. So I direct the energy program at the South Carolina Coastal Conservation League. We're a nonprofit environmental advocacy group that works a lot in the coastal areas of South Carolina, up and down from Beaufort to Charleston to Horry counties, but we also do a lot of work at the state level as well. I manage our energy program, so we're focused on making sure South Carolina is maximizing its opportunities to invest in clean energy. So that's everything from offshore wind to solar to sustainable biomass to energy efficiency. And we primarily focus our energy work with the state legislature and the state's public service commission that regulates the state utilities.
Okay, okay, that's great, Hamilton. Now, one of the things I like to ask you about is because you mentioned a number of things. Um, why don't we talk about the environment first in terms of conservation, and then second in terms of some of the initiatives or actions that you're involved in right now?
Okay, sounds good. Well, from an environmental perspective, we don't just do energy. We also work on sustainable agriculture. We work on clean water, clean air issues. We work on transportation, land use planning, infrastructure investment, and land conservation. So there are a lot of different areas that come together in our work, and all of our projects are oriented towards making sure the quality of life in South Carolina is sustained and even elevated with the decisions we make in our public policy decisions. So whether that is deciding on where to build a road, or if we need to build a new road, or how we maintain our beaches for public access, or how farmers in rural areas get their products to market. The Conservation League's involved in those conversations and attempting to find solutions to some of the challenges our state faces today. On the energy front, just from an environmental perspective, we've been involved with making sure our older coal plants are scheduled for retirement, making sure coal ash storage in the state is being responsibly handled. We've made a lot of progress in that area recently with Duke Energy and SC&G and Santee Cooper all now moving to remove coal ash from the banks of our rivers and ensuring that we don't have the type of accidents that we've seen in North Carolina with large spills that have contaminated drinking water and natural resources. We want to avoid that, and I think we've done a pretty good job of putting South Carolina actually in a leadership position on issues like coal ash. But as you know, we still have a lot of challenges ahead, especially with just emissions from our existing fossil fuel plants. And I think we'll probably talk a little bit about the EPA plan today and how South Carolina should position itself to comply with those regulations that are being finalized right now.
Sure, great. As you said, so many different things, and and I know you personally, so I know you do a lot of good work, a lot of forward-thinking work. And you mentioned the EPA Clean Power Plan. We'll get a final ruling on that in just a month or so. What I want to know is what really excites you. What about the proposed EPA Clean Power Plan? What really excites you? What do you think we'll be able to put together in South Carolina that will help people lower their costs, give us clean energy, have a positive impact on climate change? Just what one or two things
Right.
resonate with you?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly the plan is going to be a challenge for South Carolina, but we really see it as an opportunity as well. And as you mentioned, an opportunity for folks of lower income, people that are struggling today with their power bills. What we've not done a good enough job doing in South Carolina is maximizing the opportunities that we have with resources like energy efficiency and solar. And those are two resources that can directly help consumers pay less than they pay today on their electricity bills. There've been a lot of studies and a significant amount of analysis that indicate, especially with energy efficiency, which is really the cheapest way to meet energy demand, is just not to use that energy, that if we put the right programs in place, we could save customers a lot of money across the state. So that's especially important for low-income customers that pay a disproportionate amount of their income towards their electricity bill. We've seen great programs piloted by the Electric Cooperatives of South Carolina, where money is loaned at a low interest rate to homeowners so that they can retrofit their homes to see those energy savings and then pay that loan back as part of their electricity bill. But the way the loan is structured is that the customer would actually see savings on day one on their electricity bill. So as they pay that loan off, they're also saving money on powering their homes. And those are the kinds of things that if we were to scale up across the state and really invest in, it not only is an opportunity to comply with these EPA regulations, but it's also going to lower power bills, and it's going to drive economic development in the state. And the jobs that are created when you are increasing energy efficiency opportunities for businesses, for homeowners, those are in the construction field. They're local jobs that can't be outsourced or brought in from other states. So this is really a stimulus opportunity for a lot of the communities in South Carolina, and a cost-saving opportunity as well.
Absolutely. And as you know, the name of this show is Environomics. So we look for economic opportunities, and most assuredly, we live in a consumer-based society. And so if we're able to lower people's energy costs, put money in their pockets, then they're going to spend that money, and that's going to drive the economy and build the economy up. I'm also interested in the piece where we talk about job creation, business creation on a more long-term sustainable note. So, when we talk about doing solar panels, solar gardens, solar farms, etc., making sure that we have people who are involved in the community, electricians, etc., who are trained to do the work and not only get savings at home in their churches and their businesses, but also set up some small businesses, etc., so that we can have a larger economic impact, and we also can have some more sustainable financial growth. You know what I mean, Hamilton?
Absolutely. I think that's key. And I think that's something that we're going to certainly as a state have to think about as we do more aggressively move towards energy efficiency and resources like solar. How do we make sure there's a workforce in place that's trained to participate in that growing market? And I think we're beginning to have those conversations. You see some of those opportunities arising within the technical schools and the colleges in South Carolina, but certainly there's a lot of room for improvement. And I think that those considerations will be key as we work on the Clean Power Plan for South Carolina. And yeah, we can't lose sight of the fact that we've got to get our workforce ready. And to the extent that we do that, again, it's just a huge opportunity for South Carolina to take these local resources that we have within our borders, meet our energy needs, reduce bills for customers, and also create economic development in our state. And that it doesn't get much better than that.
Great response, Hamilton. If I were in church, I'd say amen to that. How do you, and I have to ask this question because my good friend, Dr. Jim Fredericks at Clemson Research and Education Center has been working for 7 or 8 years now in the area of biomass. So How do you guys view biomass? Do you view it as clean energy, renewable energy, something that in a state that has great agribusiness possibilities? How do you view biomass?
Yeah, well, we certainly view it as something that can be renewable and can be sustainable if it's done in the right way. And I'll use an analogy with solar and wind, two resources that we certainly support, but we wouldn't support putting a solar farm in the middle of the Francis Marion National Forest, and we wouldn't support putting wind turbines off of Cape Romaine. So, we've got to be sensitive to the impact that even renewable and clean energy resources have on the environment and on our communities. But there's ample opportunity to put those resources in the right place and get it right and mitigate any impacts to the environment or to the people that live close to those facilities. And I think it's the same thing with biomass. There's a lot of opportunity, whether you're talking about biofuels from crops, or you're talking about producing electricity from waste wood associated with forestry operations. We need to get the policy and regulatory environment right so that we are encouraging the use of the sustainable biomass that we have in the state and maximizing that to the extent it makes good economic and environmental sense. So we're a supporter with the caveat that you got to do it right.
Okay. Okay, I can understand that. And part of the economic interest that we have with biomass is that is particularly along the I-95 corridor of shame.
Right.
We have a lot of rural communities that are just simply impoverished. The manufacturers are not going to relocate there, particularly because it may be an I-95 corridor of shame. But a lot of those impoverished rural communities are not readily accessible to I-95. That's why they're not attracting the manufacturers and the large companies. And so biomass gives landowners and farmers and fallow ground. It gives turns them into an engine for economic development for these communities that are largely or not as well represented as they should be on the legislative front, because their populations are not growing, the young people are moving away, and so they just don't have the political clout in terms of numbers to catch the ears and the eyes of the legislators, unfortunately, so often. And so you see biomass as part of what, a energy basket that's diverse, or one of the challenges we have here is with biomass is kind of like the chicken and the egg. There's not a market for it within the United States, great market in Europe. And so the farmers don't really want to grow it unless they know they can sell it, and the people who can use it don't want to commit to biomass if they don't know it can be grown in quantity. So how do you feel about that kind of chicken and egg dilemma that we're caught up in now?
Yeah, and I think the Clean Power Plan solves part of that. I mean, I think what we will see as a consequence of these regulations on CO2 will be a marketplace that doesn't exist now for a lot more renewables and energy efficiency. And so as you pointed out, what we would like to see is a diversified portfolio that's used to meet those requirements. So it's not going to be all solar or all wind. It should be some combination of wind, solar, sustainable biomass, and energy efficiency on the clean energy front. And I think that chicken egg problem you talk about, it exists for efficiency and for solar as well. You've got to have your policy and regulatory environment encouraging investment in those resources, or you're not going to see those resources materialize. And I've had this conversation a lot with different folks around the state as to whether or not solar really works in the marketplace or energy efficiency works in the marketplace. And it does, but you have to, again, get your policy environment right. And that's why, we're building 2 nuclear reactors in the state. Well, we're building those two nuclear reactors because there's an entire host of regulatory and policy considerations that have been adopted and provided to support that investment and incentivize that investment. If those policies weren't there, we wouldn't be building nuclear. And it's the same thing with solar and efficiency and biomass and any other resource. You've got to make sure everything's in place to have those investments make sense, and do it in a way that's economically responsible, environmentally responsible, and that's really the task ahead of us in South Carolina, getting those policies right. And if we do, we'll reap the benefits in the form of jobs and economic development and cleaner air and cleaner water.
Absolutely, absolutely a great answer, and that's why we are so blessed to have folks like yourself in the South Carolina Coastal Conservation League who are out there working on policy issues and advocating for change. Well, now, and I know you keep saying South Carolina, South Carolina, South Carolina, but in this regard, South Carolina is actually leading the field in so many different ways that I'm really starting to think about not just South Carolina, but how some of the things that are happening and going to happen here can be replicated nationally. And if folks are asking about that question. But we're at the point now in our program where we want to give you an opportunity to have our viewers look at some actionable items that you're currently working on or you're going to be working on if you have an event, if you have a petition, if you're taking comments for EPA or something like that. Let's give the viewers some actionable items so that they can engage with South Carolina Coastal Conservation League and making South Carolina and the world a better place.
Yeah, well, so there's a lot of opportunity to get involved that's right here on the horizon. As you mentioned, the EPA's Clean Power Plan will be finalized this summer. And so there will be public hearings. There will be ways to contact elected officials, regulators, and let them know that things like energy efficiency and solar should be a priority within that plan. What I would encourage everyone to do is we've got a website. It's the coastalconservationleague.org. coastalconservationleague.org. Sign up for our emails on energy. Very easy to do. Quickly sign up, and we do a good job of keeping folks on that email list in the loop. So if there's an opportunity to sign a petition or send an email or call an elected official, we'll let them know where the meetings are, where the action is, and how they can have an influence on this debate. I really appreciate Reverend Woodbury, you giving me the opportunity to be on this program today. I've enjoyed our work together over the last 18 months or so on the stakeholder initiative that DHEC is overseeing for this EPA plan. And that's one of those areas where people are going to be able to get involved. That stakeholder group will be holding public meetings, and they can keep track of that through our email list as well. So coastalconservationleague.org. Sign up and we'll keep you in the loop.
Okay, Hamilton, we invited you on the program for many reasons, and one is that you're having such a great impact in South Carolina and consequentially in other states as well, indirectly. And we look forward to working with you. And you can call on us. We're getting folks together. We're getting our partners and other folks together. So when we have to go to those public hearings and stuff like that, just let us know. We'll have our comments and we'll have people from the community there. Okay?
Absolutely. Well, it's great partnering with you on this work, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show today.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Hamilton Davis with the South Carolina Coastal Conservation League. Hamilton, keep up the good work. And in the end, we may not see it all, but in the end, victory is going to be yours.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day.